Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast. By and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode 73, I think I said that already, in which we're going to bring you some Las Vegas news that we thought was interesting, and of course our patented drink of the day. But before we can bring you any of that amazing top shelf premium Las Vegas content that we bring weekly for free, we have to welcome in that special someone. Yes, of course, I can only be speaking of the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who is always waiting on that limo to take him to his next luxury Las Vegas destination. I am speaking of Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am doing pretty good, although there's a news story I'm going to add. When we cover everything else by Scott, I have one more from Scott that I didn't get on the run sheet. I was better before I saw that one. We'll get there later. That's going to make me need a drink. So you want to introduce the drink, or would you like me to?
I will start to talk about the drink, but it is fundamentally yours, so I'm going to need you to pick up. Listeners, our drink of the day is the Little Italy, which is a drink made in rye whiskey. A week ago, I owned 1/2 of one bottle of rye whiskey. I now own 2.5 bottles of rye, combined with vermouth and something called Cynar. So, John, before you talk about how you constructed this, tell our listeners, what in the world is Cynar?
So it's actually pronounced, I'm going to be that guy, Chinar. It is an Amaro. So we've been dipping our toes in Amaro. Last week we did Amaro de Angostura. This particular Amaro, the bittering base is artichoke hearts. Now, it doesn't taste like artichokes, but that's where it derives its bitterness. There is an artichoke on the bottle. And I quite like this stuff. My first discovery of it was at Esther's Kitchen. They serve this. I don't know if they always did it because they didn't do this for you and me. But when I took my wife there for date night, when my wife and I were in Vegas, they brought she and I out a little pour of Chinar just because the waitress seemed to like us. And that was my first experience. It is bracingly bitter, not as bitter as Campari though. And the flavors are just lovely with this. So the cocktail tonight is a variation on the Manhattan. And the specs are 2 ounces of your rye. The recipe recommends 100 proof or like Rittenhouse. 3/4 of an ounce of a sweet vermouth. They say Martini and Rossi. 1/2 ounce of the Chinar, and then garnish with maraschino cherry. You build it like you would any Manhattan in your cocktail stirring glass. Assemble everything but the garnish. Stir with cracked ice. Strain out and serve up in a cocktail glass. Some people like their Manhattans on the rocks. But that's really up to you. Bill, did you zig anywhere the recipe zagged? And what do you think?
So I considered adding some orange bitters, and I may go back and do that later. But no, I basically followed the recipe as best I could with the ingredients I had. So I used 2 ounces of rye. Now, I didn't have any Rittenhouse. I had some 100 proof, but I also got a gift today from a friend, some Cedar Ridge straight rye whiskey from Iowa. Dude's from Iowa. He came back from a long trip, brought me some, wanted to acknowledge the gift. It is 43% alcohol, so 86 proof, but that's what I used as the rye. So the same recipe, the same amount, just lower proof. I used 3/4 of an ounce of sweet vermouth, but I used Noilly Prat French vermouth. I used 1/2 ounce of Cynar, and instead of a maraschino cherry, I used a Luxardo cherry because, again, I wanted to go with ingredients I had, but basically I followed the recipe exactly. The other difference I had was I had mine shaken, not stirred, but I strained it out into the cocktail glass and served it neat. I actually really enjoy this. I wonder what it would have been like if I would have added just a touch of the orange bitters to it, and I may do that later.
So, like you, I used a different rye. I went with Wild Turkey 101 because that's what I had on hand, and that's one of my favorite ryes anyway. 3/4 of an ounce. I use the Dolan. I do have Martini and Rossi sweet vermouth in the house, but the Dolan's already open. Listeners, vermouth does not keep as long as some other things in your liquor cabinet. When you crack a vermouth, one, keep it in the fridge, and two, you've got anywhere from 21 to maybe 60 days of peak flavor in that thing. So I tend to buy smaller bottles, and once I crack one, I don't switch off to other ones. So the Dolan is my ride or die for now. I did use a little more Chinar. I went with 3/4 of an ounce. And like you, I used a Luxardo cherry, although technically Luxardos are a maraschino. It's just a particular brand name. And I'm going to be that guy, pinky in the air when I say it. So I
Wait,
will
wait.
say,
Which one of us is the leader in the luxury lounge here again, John? Remind me.
hey, I am broke, but I am picky about my cocktails.
You go, brother. I hear what you're having to say. So, what do you think about this drink, John?
Well, first of all, I got extra fancy. I ordered the bamboo skewers for my garnish. Are you checking this out, Bill?
I see your stick that you're waving at the camera.
I'm
Yes.
very proud of myself for that. So it's not as dramatically different from a standard Manhattan as I would like. I do think that the Chinar needs to be louder. There needs to be more Chinar. Otherwise, it just tastes like you made your Manhattan with a different bitters than usual. I do like it. I think I like this as much or better than any other Manhattan I've ever had. But I think I would have preferred it, even though I went from a half to a 3/4 ounce. I think I should have done a full ounce of the Chinar and only say a half ounce of the sweet vermouth.
Okay. So, how do you think that would have changed the drink?
I think it would have made the bitter flavor a little more pronounced and given you more of the Chinar character. I will say, as it warms up, the Chinar is getting louder because I made this about 20 minutes ago so I could take the Twitter picture and all of that.
So,
And I do like it better as it warms. Normally, I like my Manhattans good and cold. This one's actually improving as it gets closer to room temp.
mine is still nice and cool, and I will close my thoughts on this drink with this. So rye isn't my drink. I prefer bourbon to rye, and when I drink bourbon, I prefer a wheated rather than a high rye bourbon. So I enjoyed mine with the slightly lower proof. Came across less aggressive to me, but no, this is a nice drink. And if I can find some Chinar, or as those of us in Alabama pronounce it, Sinar, again, I don't know that this doesn't become my lead variation on the Manhattan.
You actually have it at that larger of the two ABC stores in your town. The one we
All right.
went to, they actually had it.
All right. Well, fair enough. I may go get that because this is worth recreating, even though it is marginally more complex than simply pouring whiskey in a glass.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Well, what do we have in the news tonight, John?
We open with major baller on a budget news. The Plaza Las Vegas will offer an upgraded version of their all-inclusive package, the same sort of deal they offered last summer. This year, it's going to run for bookings from June 1st to August 31st. In addition to waived resort fees, a free breakfast and dinner at select fast casual outlets on property, and bottomless well drinks at two of the floor casino bars. This time around, they're also giving you discounts on appetizers at Oscars, discounted drinks up at the pool, 25% off, and free early check-in, making a good deal even better. Bill, is this enough to get you back in the Plaza?
So I love gambling at the Plaza. It wasn't my favorite place to stay, but there's not a lot of places downtown that I do like to stay. Yeah, that's actually pretty intriguing. So the discounted appetizers at Oscar's not that big a deal. The discounted pool drinks are, because you have sold me, John. A pool day is a lovely way to spend a day in Vegas, particularly if I can get Rachel to go on another trip with me. And cheaper pool drinks is great. But honestly, the biggest part is the free early check-in. When I get to Vegas, I hate having to wait around for check-in time. And you can usually get in early, but sometimes they want to charge you. Sometimes somebody's being officious. It's a nice set of extra perks. Now, remind me, John, the well drinks on the casino floor, like what sort of beers did they have and what sort of whiskeys did they have last time you were there?
So the beer selection that's going to be included in the comps are going to be your major American brands. So, your Coors Light, your Michelob Ultra, that kind of thing. I think you can get Dos Equis on the Plaza. I've done that before. Not sure if that's still true, but once upon a time, these two bars did have Dos Equis on tap. And the well whiskey, I want to say was Evan Williams Black Label, but it might have been Jim Beam White Label. There's different places downtown that do differently. I think Plaza's Evan Williams, much like the Downtown Grand, but I could be wrong. So not great whiskey in the well, but I won't
Fully
turn up my nose
acceptable.
at those.
Yeah, no, either one of those I think would be just fine. So yeah, I'm actually intrigued, and if I can get to Vegas this summer, I will at least price out what that actually cost on whatever the dates are. All right. Well, in other news, Scott at Vital Vegas broke news that the Plaza is getting a Five Guys. And while neither John nor I like to eat at chain restaurants in Vegas, and we've talked about that essentially every episode, the allure of an unreasonably big serving of hand-cut French fries could conceivably at least make John break that rule. I, of course, am a saint when I'm in Vegas, which means that, I wouldn't get drunk enough to do that. I'm drinking water and eating salads the whole time. There's no word on where on the Plaza property this is going to be, although Scott does say it's not the food court, which for me begs the question of where it is going to go. So, John, it's late at night in Vegas and you've made choices while the rest of us were attending our church group meeting. Do you go to the Five Guys at the Plaza or do you go to the White Castle?
Probably I go to Dirt Dog, which is in between the two. I've made the mistake of White Castle before. It scratched an itch. I don't have a White Castle in my town, so it satisfies the don't eat things in Vegas you can get at home rule. I don't think I go to Five Guys, although I really do like their fries. I do like their burgers. I suppose if I were staying in the Plaza and stumbling down, if I was at the point of the evening where stumbling down Fremont seemed unwise, I would do I would do the Five Guys if I didn't get a slice of pizza because they have good pizza too. But probably not. But I do like it.
And it is a nice addition. Well, has Scott said anything else ever that we need to cover?
So I'm going to give a little bit of bad news from Scott that's not on the run sheet before we end with some good news from Scott and then move on with our night. Scott posted a picture from Ellis Island. Now, the last couple of episodes, we've talked about the remodel at Ellis Island, and I've been lobbying Bill to let us go hang out at Ellis Island and gamble. But Scott showed a picture of a pay table on video poker on at least one machine at Ellis Island. And the pay table was bad. So instead of, say, a 99.7 or something like that return to player, this is probably like a 98% return to player, which still, video poker is a better return to player average than almost any game in the casino. So it's not like it's terrible compared to your other options. One of the things I love about Ellis Island is really good odds on the table games, fairly loose slots, and very critical to me, very good pay tables on the video poker. It sounds like they're paying for that renovation by screwing over video poker players. I'm not happy. I'm hoping it's just a new machine that they programmed wrong. But it does sort of make me wonder if I'm going to get bad odds, why am I walking over to Ellis Island? I can get that pay table from one of the big boys on the strip and save my feet the effort.
Yeah. So I think you pointed to something really important. Just because a casino normally offers good gambling rules, before you sit down at any machine or any table, always see what the rules are that particular night, because they change from property to property and from night to night. And you want to make sure it's as good a deal as it has traditionally been, and they're not simply living off of faded glory. No, that's a great catch, John. All right. Well, John, do you want to share what the actual good news is from him? Because this also seems like a you sort of story.
Let me finish eating my first of two cocktail cherries. Scott also shared that Lip Smacking Foodie Tours are launching a cocktail bar crawl in the Arts District with stops at Nocturno, Doberman, Drawing Room, CC Speakeasy, Prowl, and Viking Mike's Alpine Yurt Bar. So, Bill, you've never done one of these lip smacking tours.
Have I
I've
not?
tried to
I've
talk you
done.
into them in the past. I've done them.
Wait, you've taken me on like 572 tours in Vegas. Have I somehow not done lip smacking?
Well, no, we've never done the like pay in advance and go to all the restaurant tours.
I most certainly have.
Did we?
It
Where did we
was
do that?
in it was in downtown. I remember like Seventh and Carson was involved, or Carson Street Kitchen. There were some other things. I'm going to speak slowly so you understand me, John. You had been drinking that weekend and may have missed on some of the finer details, but yeah, we did it downtown with you and me and Mike.
I remember that we went to a couple of the places. I guess I forgot that we actually did the foodie tour. At any rate, they put on good tours. Are you interested in this pub crawl?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because we've done a couple of other pub crawls before. I would 100% do that. That actually sounds pretty interesting. Um, and I'm not going to lie, I think my favorite one may be Viking Mike's Alpine Yurt Bar.
I don't know what you drink in a yurt. I feel like there must be yogurt in it.
Mm, I feel like it's the fifth bar in the tour. It'll be just fine.
Okay, fair.
Well, in other Vegas news, the Associated Press said that the days of the $1 buffet in Las Vegas are long gone, which is a thing we already knew. However, the article also says that they've been replaced by the $175 buffet. The article does not mention where this terrible unicorn lives. So, John, you and I have eaten at some very expensive buffets in Vegas, but so far I haven't yet cracked the triple digits. Do you have any idea what the Associated Press is talking about? Not with the fact that the cheap buffets are gone, but like, where is this super expensive buffet they're talking about?
Yes, and it's actually aimed at locals. So this is at the steakhouse at the M Resort. And I know this, they do this for Sunday brunch. And I know about this because your girl Norma and Travel Ruby both have video reviews of this. So I know you've seen it because there's a Norma video.
I don't know what you're talking about, John. That
I,
sounds like a girl, and my wife is the only girl I've ever even thought about.
Well, at any rate, I believe it's Norma and her friend Lydia and her husband and Jay Cation eating a whole bunch of stuff. Honestly, I can't afford a $175 buffet, but honestly, the videos look pretty amazing. So you get your money's worth. They have some very high end things out on the menu. But the crazy thing here is that it's not at one of the big tourist joints. It's not MGM. It's not Caesars that's doing this. It's M Resort. And most of the people who go to it are locals.
Okay, I know that now, and I'm not going to lie. I might, so Le Cirque has now priced themselves out of my market. But the next time I want to do something fancy, instead of spending $700 at Le Cirque, I may go spend $175 on this buffet.
Well, you better book it way in advance because apparently they sell out. So it's one of those things that you're not just going to wake up Sunday morning and decide to go stumble into. It really is a thing, which kind of surprises me. The locals drive it. Well, Bill, from high-end buffets to fast-serve fried chicken, multiple outlets report that the legendary Southern chicken chain Bojangles is coming to the Link. This will be the fifth Vegas location, but it's going to be the first in the entire country with the full-service bar, begging the question, hey, Bill, what cocktail pairs best with a Bowberry biscuit?
Bourbon, obviously. I mean, that is absolutely right. Also, I eat at Bojangles a lot because I am thoroughly Southern. Also, my oldest son, Edwin, who goes to school in Ireland, can't get bone-in fried chicken in Ireland. He has a lot of like fried chicken like fillets, but no bone-in fried chicken. Bojangles is his go-to. We went there on his next to last night in town when he was here over Christmas break. I eat at Bojangles a lot. I've never seen a Bowberry biscuit. Are you sure that's a thing that exists, or is that something that like the rye whiskey made up?
No, it may be a seasonal thing. Weirdly, in Texas, none of our Bojangle locations have the bone-in chicken. They're tenders only, which is
Oh, good
infuriating.
Lord. Then you don't
We,
have a Bojangles.
that would be the argument, but we do get the Bowberry biscuit. At least the last time I was in one, we don't have one on our end of the state. But when I visit Dallas, I occasionally pop into a Bo's, And that is a thing they have, and it is quite magnificent. By the way, I agree on bourbon, but not just straight bourbon. You get a blackberry bourbon smash with your bowberry biscuit. That's the play.
So if I was at a place that really had a real bar, sure. Here's the problem. I don't trust Bojangles to hire a craft cocktail guy. I trust Bojangles to do a lot of things. I trust them to fry chicken. I trust them to fry okra. I trust them to take all of the butter in Alabama and put it on a single biscuit. What I don't trust them to do is to make a craft cocktail. However, to this location by the link in Las Vegas, yeah, I will absolutely go check that out. That may be the first meal I eat on my next trip to Las Vegas. I need to go to Bojangles with a bar.
You know what? The thing about that is, I'm pretty sure Caesars will take care of the cocktail program, and the folks at Caesars, they can make some drinks. They're going to charge too much, but they
Yep.
can make a good drink.
You know what? I will be willing to give that a shot.
Well,
Well,
before we
go
move
ahead.
on, I did want to ask. So I got to visit Alabama, and we went to a couple of places. Well, every place we went to served fried chicken, I think, but I had fried chicken at a couple of places. Compared to the places I ate, how does Bo's, which is out of the Carolinas, it's not an Alabama chain, how does Bo's rack up with your native Alabama chicken joints, Bill?
So it's fast food chicken, which means it's not going to be as good as if somebody's grandma fries it. But as fast food fried chicken goes, it's pretty good, right? Now, if you're to go to one of the local soul food places or one of the places where there's an angry old woman in the back with a meat cleaver and a soon to die chicken, that's going to be better.
Right.
But no, Bojangles is actually it's good stuff. I enjoy it very much.
Well, that's a good comparison point to have because, here in Texas, fried chicken's not our thing. We're so bad at frying chicken. We just said, let's chicken fry beef. We could do chicken fried steak because we understand beef.
Yeah, and chicken fried steak, God bless it, that is something that my native Texas does better. Well, in other
Amen.
news, Las Vegas locally reported that Bally's Corporation is abandoning plans for a casino on the lot they share with the A Stadium, opting instead for a retail and dining strategy. Now, longtime listeners know that we've long doubted about Bally's ability to finance a hotel and casino in this location. MGM will undoubtedly benefit as they'll be the only hotel operator in the neighborhood. But could this just be the opening that Tillman Fertitta needs to finally build a resort on his parking lot, which is just north of Las Vegas Boulevard, John?
I'm going to say a tentative maybe on that. I do think Tillman should wait and see if Bally's retains the property and if they build out enough retail and dining to preclude putting a resort on property. And here's why I say that. If MGM, let's say, or some other operator buys Bally's out and there's a hotel there, that ballpark is going to be surrounded by multiple MGM properties and an on-property resort. And at that point, I don't think he comes in and tries to make a mid-priced resort to cater to sports fans. I don't think that's going to work. But if this really happens as described in the article, and all you have there is retail and restaurants, and there's an opportunity to put someplace in, I don't think he's going to do the Post Oak, which was the original plan. I think he halted that because he realized with Resorts World and Fontainebleau that we have maxed out luxury capacity in Vegas. We have unsold luxury rooms every night in Vegas. The market is souring on premium product. I don't think he can do that. But if you could stay at the Golden Nugget 2.0 with a Texas Roadhouse inside of it and walk 4 minutes to the ballpark, yeah, I think that's a winner.
I think it is a winner. I'm going to say I think that Bally's is making a mistake here with their all retail strategy. I think that you absolutely need gambling there because if you've got people stumbling out of a baseball game, you could get somebody to spend 4 hours on a video poker machine because they've had beer at the baseball game. You give them a free Coors Light. they'll be there for a while making terrible decisions based on the odds. I understand Major League Baseball might not want sports betting, but the notion of like a blackjack table overlooking the outfield or something, Bally's is missing an opportunity here.
Yeah, but I don't think Bally's is missing that opportunity because they don't see it. I think they're missing it because they can't afford it. I think Bally's very much wants to build that casino. The fact that they're now saying that they won't is them admitting that they can't.
Yeah. I think somebody eventually does. But you know what? We'll see what happens. What else we have, John?
Well, speaking of sad trombone music, Eater Las Vegas reported on the saddest restaurant closings in Las Vegas over the past couple of months. And at least Bill says we can all agree, although it wasn't a restaurant, although they did serve pizza, that the saddest was the Sand Dollar location at the Plaza. Now, Bill, you added this. Is there anything on this listicle from Eater that really breaks your heart? I know how you feel about the Sand Dollar.
So I'll be honest, the sand dollar is the one which mostly got my attention. Let me pull this back up right now. Doop doop doop. Sorry, for some reason my computer is being slow because that's the thing which always happens at a moment precisely like this. I don't know that I know most. Oh, so there's a hash house at GoGo, but that's not that big a deal. So there haven't been, if you're believing this list, all that many SAG closings. Like I would have enjoyed trying Federal Donuts and Chicken. Beer Zombie sounds like it could have been fun. I just want to take a minute and remember the Sand Dollar because that was a hella good place to drink. It wasn't expensive. The bartenders actually paid attention to their craft as opposed to simply pouring liquor in a cup. I miss the Sand Dollar, John, and I wish it would come back.
So I'm going to say two things about that. Number one, there's still a Sand Dollar in Vegas out on Chinatown. And number two, I suspect, and I could be wrong. So we're going to back up for a minute to the Five Guys story. Scott said, now everybody else on social media made the assumption that the Five Guys is going to go into the McDonald's space in the food court. Scott said that's not the plan. Now, Five Guys is going to want a location that is easily accessible to people out on the Fremont Street experience. There's only two places that Five Guys can go that scratch that itch as far as I know. One is that Sand Dollar space, and the other is the non-smoking casino lounge. I don't think it's going in the Sand Dollar space. That non-smoking casino lounge is not performing well, and lo and behold, it is about the right size to put in a Five Guys. It has an exterior entrance, so drunks out on the Fremont Street experience could stumble on through to get their burgers and fries. And from all reports, the Hogs and Heifers pop-up in that Sand Dollar space is doing good business. I've maintained that the Sand Dollar was the wrong business model for that space. Live local acts that perform original music is great, but not on Fremont Street. The music people want on Fremont Street is stuff they could sing along with. I think Plaza needs to put a bar in that space. I want the good cocktails. I want the good video poker. But give me a bar that one night has a cover band, one night has a DJ doing 90s and 2000s hip hop, one night has a karaoke night, that kind of thing. Give people songs they know that they can have a few drinks and sing along with. That's what works on Fremont.
All right. That fair, right? Like that actually totally makes sense. In other news, the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Neon blog reports that the Fremont Street experience is going really big for Valentine's Day weekend. Specifically, amongst other things, you can broadcast your marriage proposal on the overhead screen. So, John, somehow, I don't actually know how you proposed to Lori. I assume it involved begging. But had you been like, sweetheart, look up, and it would have said, Lori, will you marry me? Do you think that would have worked?
Well, at that point in time, Lori and I were both very hyper conservative religious. So there's not a scenario, and we were broke. So there's not a scenario where either of us would have been in Vegas. But I will say that Lori enjoys a good time on Fremont. She would have been a good sport about that. It might have worked out for me, but this may be a case where my bride is different than your bride. How would that have worked for you?
Um, I have been happily married for a very large number of years, and I think that's largely premised on me not having pulled shit like this. So, Rachel, if you're listening to this, I do hope you will post a comment somewhere. Let me know. Would you like to have a marriage? Would you have liked to have had a marriage proposal up on that big screen up on top of Fremont Street? And if so, maybe we have Elvis do like a recommitment ceremony, because Lord knows that at this point in our marriage, we both need to be committed.
You know what? If you're going to do that, invite my wife and I. We will stand with you in your remarriage at the little wedding chapel. I think that sounds like fun. Well, moving on from that kind of shenanigans, the Neon blog also reports that M Resort is bolstering their concert game this summer amongst artists of whom Bill and I have at least heard of, because that's not always the case at our advanced age. They will bring in T-Pain on May 9th and Stone Temple Pilots on July 25th. Bill, between the two, which one would you rather see?
I don't know, but my guess is I'm going to go Stone Temple Pilots. I would actually show up at either one of those concerts. I would be worried about the ambient level of marijuana in the air at either one, and whether or not that's going to cause a problem if I ever have to take a drug test. But you know what? Going to a Stone Temple Pilots concert, yeah, that would absolutely get me out to the M Resort. How about you? Which one would you rather go to?
Probably Stone Temple Pilots, but I think it's funny to see a band called Stone Temple Pilots when everybody in the crowd is stoned with kidney stones. So, health is a thing at our age. Hey,
that
Bill,
is funny.
we seem young being into those bands. Why don't you do the next story about some bands that predate you and I?
I don't know what you mean. We've been around forever. We are timeless, John. And Vegas Publicity reported that Lou Gramm will present Foreigner, the Hits Orchestral at the Venetian March 6th and 7th, a dad rock extravaganza for younger boomers and older Gen X. John, we count as relatively young for Gen X, right?
For Gen X. Within that caveat, we're on the young end of Gen X.
Yeah. See, so therefore, one of us may not die this week. It's fine.
Right.
Right.
Now,
or at least not of old age.
My older siblings would love this show. They were big Foreigner people. Foreigner's a little too old for me.
So, I realize that it is a slightly different thing, but A, I know some Foreigner songs, and B, the first time I had Rachel over to my apartment in College Station, I didn't play Foreigner. I think I played some Journey or something like that. And she just gave me a look which said, "Bless your heart." And it became clear that I needed help in my life because that was the music I chose to play.
Yeah,
now,
you were like her rescue puppy, basically.
It was more than 2.5 decades ago. It worked out. One night she's like, "Bill, you're going to take me out for tacos tonight." And 25 years later, we're still married. It's fine. Yeah.
Worked out.
What else we have?
Our last story of the night, Raiders coaching search update. According to Bleacher Report, the Raiders may intend to hire Clint Kubiak of the Seahawks after the Super Bowl. Bill, what do you think? Kubiak and the number 1 overall pick, are the Raiders going to trend in the right direction?
I mean, they can't get much worse. So it's speculation and you never really know, but I tend to believe this story because that would be a good explanation for why the Raiders have taken so long. And it's a promotion from a coordinator position. So it makes sense for Kubiak to take it. In terms of overall number 1 pick, I still expect them to take Mendoza. But we talked about this last week on episode 72. If you're going to take Mendoza, for the love of bacon, what you have to do is pay a lot of money to a left tackle who keeps him from being unalived, right? Like, I'd like an entire offensive line, but at least a left tackle has to happen here because Mendoza, who, I mean, is used to playing places like Purdue. If he's in the NFL without a solid offensive line and a first-year head coach, he's going to get murdered pretty bad. What's your take on this, John?
So here's what I'm going to say. And one, the Raiders' offensive line is not great, but it's not the first 3 years of the expansion Houston Texans, right? So they got to shore up the line, but it's not a hopeless situation. The line is not why Geno Smith stunk. Geno is the reason Geno stunk. I will say this. Sam Darnold was just sent packing by the Vikings. Goodbye. Your services are no longer needed. He's now going to be in the Super Bowl. If Kubiak is the reason, if he as an offensive guru turned Sam Darnold into a championship level quarterback, that's the guy I want coaching up my first round draft pick. I think this is a really smart move by the Raiders. And I think the NFL is a much better league if either the Raiders or the Cowboys or both are actually competitive. I know we haven't seen that in a long time. I don't have my hopes too high for my beloved Cowboys. I would like to see one of these legacy franchises return to some form of glory. And I think Kubiak is the guy that gives the Raiders the best chance.
So I'm going to trigger you, John. Who is the worst NFL owner? The Davises or the Joneses?
Oh, the Joneses.
And why do you believe that?
Well, I think the Raiders were really on the right track to rebuilding until they had a head coach in John Gruden have to get fired over making some really stupid and racist comments by email. A, listeners, don't be a racist jerk. And B, if you are a racist jerk, don't write it down. Just, okay, go ahead and do. We want to know who you are so we can get you out of the way. But still, the Raiders have been relevant more recently than the Cowboys.
All right. I think
so. Yeah,
fair. I think that is fair. Well, John, is it time to bring things home?
I think it is, and I lost track of time because I was looking for my second drink because I finished the first one. Bill, why don't you tell the listeners where they can find more Dine, Drink, Travel, and Dine, Drink Vegas content?
Listeners, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we present short and focused videos which help you plan your next trip. Something like 5 or 10 minutes on a particular hotel room, a particular restaurant, but other things which give you the catalog of information you need. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we do the rest of our travel adventures, things like my trips to Ireland, favorite bars, or if you're interested in Las Vegas, things like executive lounges in the Las Vegas airport. You can also find me on essentially every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel, although the most significant of those may be X, because, John, where can they find you?
I'm at Dine Drink John on X, where I'm happy to talk to you about off-season NFL moves, finely crafted coffee beverages, cocktails, why the Dallas Cowboys are going to break my heart, and all kinds of travel tidbits I found interesting. We thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend planning a trip to Vegas, maybe their first trip to Vegas, and they could benefit from our sage wisdom, please like and share our podcast. Put it in their hot little hands. Let them listen to it. Even if you've got a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, white guys talk and drink and talk and drink, heck, share it with them too. Either way, you'll help us build an audience so that we can keep bringing you this top shelf travel content. We thank you so much for listening, and until the next episode, happy travels.
So I actually know exactly how to turn it off. I'm intentionally leaving the recording on because it's become funny to me to have a little bit of post-production stuff. Listeners, if you're still here, John's cut off the music. If you're still here, leave us a little comment about the Easter egg at the end where we normally make fun of one another for my inability to do technical stuff correctly.
Yeah. I didn't listen to any of that. I was eating a cocktail cherry.
You eat whatever cherries you need, John. I am shutting this off now.
Yeah, no.